The rare kind of attractive there is a kind of person you probably know. Not the most popular one in the room, not the loudest, not the most immediately charming, but the kind who, somewhere around their 40s, started doing something strange. They became impossible to ignore. You couldn't quite explain it. Their face had lines now, and their energy was quieter than it used to be. They moved through the world without rushing anything, yet people gathered around them like planets pulled toward a gravity they hadn't noticed forming. Something about being in their presence made you feel, for the first time in a long conversation, genuinely seen. Carl Jung noticed this pattern decades before anyone had language for it. He observed that the people who became most compelling with age were rarely the ones society had trained to be impressive. They were a different, rarer kind entirely, and their attractiveness had nothing to do with the things culture measures. It had everything to do with something most people spend their entire lives running away from. What Jung discovered challenges everything we think we know about why certain people become magnetic, and why that magnetism only intensifies with every year they exist. What we get wrong about attractiveness and age. Let's begin with what most people get completely wrong. The conventional story goes like this. Youth is attractive. Novelty is attractive. The unlined face, the unguarded laugh, the sense of endless possibility, these are the currencies of appeal. By that logic, attractiveness should diminish over the decades, fading like a photograph left in the sun. But Jung's clinical observations told a completely different story. He spent decades watching people transform, both in his practice and in the broader culture around him. And he noticed something that directly contradicted the cultural mythology. For most people, yes, attractiveness shifts and settles into something quieter with age. But for a specific, rare configuration of personality, something almost opposite occurred. They became more present, more certain, more real, more difficult to dismiss, more capable of drawing others toward them. Not through performance, but through the simple fact of their existence in a room. What made Jung's observation so precise was what it wasn't. He wasn't talking about confidence acquired through success, though these individuals often had that. He wasn't talking about status, accumulated wealth, or the social authority that comes from decades of professional achievement. He was describing something internal, a process of psychological completion that most people never reach. The rare personality types who reached it became, in his words, individuated fully themselves. And full selves, Jung believed, create gravitational fields. The uncomfortable truth about who they were before to understand why. You need to understand what these rare personalities looked like before age refined them. Here is the uncomfortable truth. When these individuals were young, many of them did not read as attractive in the conventional sense. They were often described as too intense, too quiet in a way that felt judgmental, too observant in a way that made people self-conscious, too honest in moments when performance would have served them better. The person who became magnetic at 45 was frequently the person who made others slightly uncomfortable at 22. Not through aggression or arrogance, but through an inability to disappear as effortlessly into the social script that everyone else was following. They asked real questions when surface ones were expected. They sat in silence when others filled it anxiously. They carried something difficult to name that made conversations feel heavier and more meaningful than the occasion seemed to call for. Social systems kept sending them the same message in different forms. You're too much. Soften yourself. Perform the expected version, and you'll be accepted. Jung called this pressure the demand of the persona, the social mask, the constructed identity that functions smoothly within cultural expectations. Most people accept this deal early and unconsciously. They trade authenticity for belonging, and for years, sometimes decades, this works well enough that they stop noticing the trade was made. But the rare personality type never quite fit the mask, not completely. They wore it when necessary and learned the performance, but something inside them kept making the mask too tight. Something genuine kept pressing against it. And when youth ends, when the social structures that rewarded performance start losing their grip, when the desperate need for belonging mellows into something more selective, that pressure changes everything. The midlife confrontation. Jung observed that most people arrive at midlife and experience what he called the midlife confrontation. The persona begins to crack. The identity built for external approval starts revealing its structural weaknesses. The successful person finds success hollow. The popular person finds popularity exhausting. The person who constructed a perfect image discovers they cannot remember who is underneath it. For most people, this confrontation is terrifying, and they respond by reinforcing the mask, working harder, achieving more, performing louder, anything to avoid turning inward and facing what has been accumulating there. But the rare personality type responds differently. They were never fully invested in the mask to begin with, so when it begins to crack, they feel something that surprises them. Relief. This is the first divergence point, and it's where the transformation begins. Jung described the second half of life as an invitation to individuation, the deepening into the authentic self, the integration of everything that was denied in the first half of conscious existence. Most people decline this invitation. They continue the performance, slightly more desperate now, slightly more hollow. But the rare types, the ones who were always too authentic to disappear completely, walk through that door, and what waits on the other side reshapes them completely. Where the attractiveness begins, this is where the attractiveness begins compounding in ways that defy ordinary explanation. Watch someone who has moved through genuine individuation. Watch them in a conversation. They are not performing interest, not calculating what response will make them appear insightful or warm. They are simply present in a way that has become rare enough to register as almost disorienting. You've probably experienced this sitting across from someone older and feeling the strange sensation that they are actually listening, not preparing their next point, not managing their impression, but actually there with you in the room, receiving what you're saying as if it matters. That presence, that simple, uncommon presence, creates something in you that feels almost like physical warmth, because genuine presence has become almost extinct in the performance economy of modern social life. Most people are managing their image so constantly that actual contact between two human beings becomes something extraordinary when it occurs. The individuated personality radiates it naturally, not as a technique, but as a consequence of no longer needing anything from the interaction except the interaction itself. This is the first quality Jung identified in the personality types that grow more attractive with age: the dissolution of performance anxiety, the end of the desperate need to be seen in a particular way. And with that dissolution comes something almost paradoxical. The less these individuals try to attract, the more magnetic they become, integrating the shadow. But there's something deeper operating here, and it's more uncomfortable than simple presence. Jung spent considerable time studying what happens when a person genuinely integrates their shadow. The shadow, in his framework, is not simply the dark side of personality. It is the totality of everything the person has denied, suppressed, and refused to acknowledge about themselves: the rage that was too frightening to express, the ambition that felt too selfish to admit, the sensitivity that felt too vulnerable to reveal, the quiet need to be loved that felt too dangerous to show. Most people spend decades in a silent, exhausting war with their shadow, trying to be good, trying to be appropriate, trying to be the person their conditioning told them they should be. That war creates a specific kind of fragmentation. You can sense it in people even if you can't name it. A certain inner tension, a quality of performance that never quite fully relaxes. As if something under the surface is always being held back or held down. But when someone has genuinely done the work of shadow integration, that tension disappears. What replaces it is something far more compelling than conventional attractiveness, psychological wholeness. The sense of being in the presence of a complete human being, rather than a carefully managed presentation of one. Jung observed that this wholeness carried a specific quality he described as self-possession, not arrogance, not superiority, simply the absolute ownership of every aspect of themselves. The light and the darkness, the certainty and the doubt, the strength and the vulnerability, all of it acknowledged, all of it integrated, all of it present at once. In a way that creates a kind of interior architecture most people never build. Here is what this self-possession creates in practice. These individuals cannot easily be diminished, not because they defend themselves, but because they have already made peace with every dimension of their own nature. When someone attempts manipulation, there is nothing to grip. When someone attempts flattery designed to create obligation, it lands in empty space. When someone attempts to create insecurity through comparison or subtle dismissal, the mechanism simply doesn't function, because the target has already accepted everything within themselves that the manipulation was designed to exploit. This immunity creates a very specific social dynamic. People who operate through unconscious influence strategies, flattery, guilt, social pressure consistently, feel vaguely uncomfortable around the individuated personality. Something in them recognizes that the usual levers are absent, and that recognition creates a strange kind of admiration mixed with unease. But people who have no agenda, who simply want genuine contact, feel the opposite. They feel safe, profoundly and unusually safe, because the individuated personality has nothing to prove and nothing to protect, which means they can meet you honestly. An honest meeting between two people is so rare that when it occurs, it registers as something almost electric. Genuine depth. This brings us to the quality that perhaps most distinguishes these rare types. As they age, the quality the culture least understands, and therefore least prepares people for: depth. Not the performed depth of someone who has read widely and quotes compellingly in social settings. Not the theatrical depth of someone who performs complexity because it signals sophistication. Genuine psychological depth, the depth that comes from having descended into yourself and returned, from having sat with your own darkness long enough to understand it, from having held your own contradictions without resolving them prematurely into comfortable fictions. Jung believed depth was not an inherited trait. It was forged, specifically through the willingness to not look away from the difficult dimensions of one's own inner life. The rare personality types who become increasingly attractive with age are almost always people who underwent this forging, often not by choice. Life imposed it, loss imposed it, failure imposed it, the experience of watching something they had built completely collapse. And instead of rebuilding the same structure faster and louder, they went inward. They stayed with the discomfort long enough to learn from it. They followed the thread of their own psychology into the dark rooms they had been avoiding. They met the parts of themselves they would rather have pretended did not exist. And they came back changed, not broken, not cynical, not hardened in the way that trauma without integration hardens a person, but deepened, anchored, carrying something that a person who has only ever lived on the surface of themselves simply doesn't have access to. This is the quality that accumulates with age in the rare personality. Every year adds a layer to it. Every difficulty, honestly metabolized, thickens it. Every shadow, honestly confronted, expands it. And people can feel it. The relationship with solitude there is a specific relationship between rare personality types and solitude that changes profoundly as they age. And that change is one of the primary engines of their increasing magnetism. When these personalities were young, their comfort with solitude was often read as a social deficiency. They spent too much time alone. They didn't seem to need people the way others did. In contexts that rewarded constant social engagement, this was treated as a problem to be corrected. Are you okay? You seem withdrawn. You should get out more. But what was actually happening inside that solitude was not withdrawal, it was construction. These personalities were using their time alone to build something most people never build, because they never stopped talking long enough to begin. They were developing an interior life of genuine complexity, a private relationship with their own thoughts, perceptions, and values that had nothing to do with external validation. Jung understood this process as the development of the self, not the ego, which craves external confirmation and manages the social image, but the deeper organizing center of the personality. The thing beneath the mask that remains consistent regardless of who is watching. Most people have no relationship with this deeper self because they have never been alone long enough or honest enough to encounter it. Their inner life is almost entirely composed of internalized social voices, what their parents valued, what their culture rewards, what their peers would think. Genuine selfhood, the kind that persists in the absence of any audience, never properly forms. But the rare personality type builds this relationship through years of genuine solitude, and as they age, this relationship becomes the foundation of everything. Their sense of security does not come from other people's approval, because it was never dependent on it. Their certainty does not come from external achievement, because it was never primarily located there. It comes from knowing themselves. This self-knowledge creates a quality Jung described as almost unsettling in its completeness. You cannot make these individuals feel like less than what they are, because what they are was established internally, through a process no one else was present for, and no one else has the authority to revise. This is the foundation of what people experience as their quiet confidence, not the performed confidence of someone who needs you to see it, but the genuine certainty of someone who has simply stopped requiring your assessment. It's one of the rarest and most compelling qualities a human being can possess. Watch how people respond to it. The energy in a conversation shifts when someone who genuinely doesn't need your approval enters it. There is no anxious monitoring of your reactions to calibrate the next sentence. No invisible bargaining happening beneath the surface pleasantries, just a person, complete, present, and somehow free. That freedom is contagious in the deepest sense. It reminds the people around them that they might also be free, if they were willing to do what this person has done. Most people find that reminder simultaneously inspiring and deeply uncomfortable. Attractive to a specific kind of person now. Here is the dimension of this transformation that Jung found perhaps most significant, and it explains why these personality types don't simply become more attractive to everyone equally. They become more attractive specifically to people who have also been doing the interior work. Jung observed that as individuation deepens, the social field around a person changes in a very specific way. The connections that depended on performance dissolve. The friendships that functioned on mutual need rather than genuine recognition become untenable. The relationships built on the comfortable exchange of flattery and social validation slowly become unbearable, because the individuated person can no longer offer what those relationships required. This is often experienced as a social narrowing. These rare types lose people as they age. Connections that once seemed substantial simply stop holding. and social circles contract. There is a period, sometimes a significant one, where this contraction feels like failure, like something essential has been lost. But Jung saw it differently. He described it as clarification. The superficial connections were never truly present to begin with. They were maintained by a social performance that is now ending. What remains after the performance ends, what persists, deepens and strengthens, are the connections built on genuine recognition. The relationships where two people actually see each other, beyond the masks, beyond the roles, beyond the mutual comfort systems that substitute for real contact. These relationships become extraordinary with age, because they are built on something that does not erode. Authenticity between two self-possessed individuals does not diminish with time, it deepens. Every year adds to the foundation. Every difficulty shared, honestly adds another layer. Every moment of genuine meeting reinforces what was already real. The individuated personality becomes, for the people capable of meeting them, increasingly magnetic precisely because genuine recognition becomes rarer. In a world of performed connections, someone who offers real seeing and real being seen creates an almost irresistible pull. The paradox at the center this is the paradox Jung identified at the center of this transformation. The very qualities that made these rare types socially awkward when Jung, the depth, the intensity, the refusal to fully disappear into the persona, the preference for genuine contact over comfortable performance, are precisely the qualities that make them extraordinary once those same individuals have had 30 years to integrate and deepen them. The intensity becomes groundedness. The awkward honesty becomes disarming authenticity. The uncomfortable presence becomes the rare gift of someone who is genuinely there. The solitude that once seemed like withdrawal reveals itself as the source of a richness most people can sense but cannot quite name. And the people who most reliably find them magnetic are the ones who have been doing similar work. The ones who are tired of performance and hungry for reality. The ones who have accumulated enough of their own depth to recognize depth in others. The ones who have lived long enough to know the difference between someone interesting and someone real. Permission to be real, this is the final dimension of Jung's observation that deserves your full attention. He believed that individuation was not only a personal process, it created effects that extended outward. The fully integrated personality does something to the social environment around it that cannot be fully explained by ordinary social mechanics. They create permission. Their existence as a complete person, comfortable with complexity, honest about contradiction, unafraid of depth, gives others tacit permission to be more themselves, not through teaching, advice, or explicit example, but simply through the fact of existing without apology. This permission is experienced differently by different people. Those who have been waiting for exactly this kind of permission feel immediately seen, immediately relieved, immediately more alive in the presence of this person. Those who have built their entire social identity around performance feel immediately threatened, exposed, and compelled to increase the distance. Both reactions testify to the same thing. The individuated personality creates a field that does not permit unconsciousness to remain comfortable. And that is simultaneously the most challenging and the most deeply attractive thing a person can become. The material early struggle becomes Jung spent decades trying to understand what differentiated the people who completed individuation from those who declined it. He found that the rare types who underwent this transformation shared certain qualities from the beginning, qualities that made the process both more difficult and more necessary for them. A sensitivity to inauthenticity that made performance continuously costly. A drive toward meaning that made purely conventional life feel insufficient. An inner life active enough that solitude was productive rather than empty. a tolerance for complexity that allowed them to sit with contradiction rather than resolving it prematurely, and a specific kind of loneliness that came not from social deficiency, but from the early recognition that most social contact was not yet reaching what they most deeply were. These qualities made their early years harder, more isolated, more uncertain, more disconnected from the cultural scripts that seemed to satisfy everyone else. But these same qualities became the exact material from which their mature magnetism was constructed. The sensitivity that once made them too porous became, after integration, the most refined perceptual instrument in any room. The drive toward meaning that once made them seem overly serious became the depth that every genuine seeker eventually recognizes and moves toward. The tolerance for complexity that once made them seem difficult became the quality that made it possible for others to finally be known in all their own complexity, without simplification or judgment. This is the arc Jung observed. Not a story of compensation, where early difficulty gets replaced by later triumph. Not a story of social success eventually arriving for the people who deserved it. Something more precise and more significant than either. A story of transformation, in which the very substance of early struggle becomes the material of later completeness, where every year of genuine interior work adds something to the architecture of the self that cannot be faked, cannot be purchased, cannot be acquired through any shortcut. Where the rare personality type becomes, not despite their nature but because of it, something the culture is increasingly hungry for, and increasingly unable to produce, someone real. Someone who has been somewhere inside themselves that most people never go, and returned knowing something that cannot be explained, only sensed. Someone whose presence creates the feeling that something true is possible between two people, if both are willing. Closing that is what grows more attractive with age, not the performance, not the youth, not the social polish that deteriorates under examination, but the irreducible, fully inhabited self that emerges only after years of genuine interior work. Jung believed this was available to anyone willing to undertake it, but he also understood that most people would choose the performance, because the performance is so much safer. Individuation requires losing the version of yourself that other people's approval constructed, and there is no guarantee of what will be found on the other side of that loss. The rare types who do it anyway, who descend into themselves and integrate what they find there, who allow the persona to crack without rushing to repair it, who stay with the discomfort long enough to be changed by it becomes something the world needs but cannot manufacture on demand. They become the people whom others remember, not for what they said or what they achieved, but for how it felt to be fully seen by them, for the quality of contact that was available in their presence, for the inexplicable sense that something real had happened in the conversation, even if neither party could quite articulate what. This is what Jung meant when he described individuation as the highest achievement of human psychological development. Not happiness, not success, not social approval, the complete, integrated, fully inhabited self. The self that took decades to construct and that becomes, year by year, more undeniable. And if you have recognized yourself somewhere in this, if you have felt the difficulty of carrying something genuine in a world that rewards performance, if you have experienced the specific loneliness of depth in contexts that prefer surfaces, if you have sat with the discomfort of your own shadow long enough to begin knowing it, then understand this clearly. What you carry is not a deficiency. It never was. It is the raw material of something that almost no one builds. And time is not working against you. Time is working through you.